Hello, and welcome back to the Curious Kid podcast. Technology is amazing. There are things that exist today that I couldn't have possibly imagined when I was a kid. And I'm not even that old. I was a kid in the 1980s. Things like smartphones, self-driving cars, and artificial intelligence were the stuff of science fiction movies when I was a kid. Growing up, if my family was driving somewhere and we were lost, we would have a paper map and we would open the map up and try to get to our destination using the map. That's why, when I first saw the technology we're getting curious about today, my mind was blown. These days, many cars already come with the technology installed. Any idea what I'm talking about? Let's find out.
Mailbag!
Mailbag! Hello, Olivia and Jacob. My name is Alanna, and my brother's name is Albert. I am 9 years old, and my brother is 6 years old. We are from Pretoria, South Africa, and currently live in Japan. We love the podcast and listen to it every day in the car or before bedtime. We learn a lot. I am curious about GPS, and my brother is curious about rugby and rugby league. We are also curious about computers, phones, cars, satellites, and the army. I hope you can get curious about one of these topics soon.
Holy smokes! It's so exciting to get messages from beautiful Japan. It still surprises me that we have listeners that enjoy the podcast from places near and far. We are so pumped to get curious about GPS this week for Alanna and Albert. By the way, if you are like Alanna and Albert and you are curious about computers, phones, cars, or satellites, we covered all those topics in previous episodes, so give those episodes a listen.
It's time to buckle your seatbelts, or just sit down comfortably, and let's explore the world of GPS. What's the question of the week?
In the United States, the most common GPS device people own is their smartphone. That being said, 170 million Americans own GPS devices other than their smartphones. Which three other types of GPS devices do at least 25% of Americans own?
There are so many different types of devices that have GPS capability, so it's going to be interesting to see how many people answer the question correctly. Okay, let's start simple. What actually is GPS?
GPS stands for Global Positioning System, and it's a network of satellites in space that help us figure out exactly where we are on Earth.
There are at least 24 main GPS satellites orbiting the Earth at all times. They're flying about 12,550 miles above us, zooming around 8,700 miles per hour.
That's faster than Mom drives when we're running late for a soccer game.
That's true. Each of the satellites sends out a signal, and your GPS device, like your phone, listens to at least 3 of them. By figuring out how long it takes the signals to reach your phone, your device can figure out where you are. It's called trilateration.
Ooh, fancy word alert. Is that like when you try to figure out where the smell of pizza is coming from using all your senses?
Pretty much. But instead of your nose and stomach, GPS uses math and science.
Okay, so where did all of this spacey positioning stuff come from? Like, who looked up at the stars one day and said, we should totally use those to find the nearest taco truck?
It actually started during the Cold War. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first ever satellite. American scientists realized they could track Sputnik by measuring its radio signals. That gave them the idea. If you can track a satellite from Earth, maybe you can also use satellites to track something on Earth.
Fast forward a couple of decades, and the U.S. Department of Defense created GPS to help the military know where their tanks, ships, and troops were.
The full system became operational in 1995. And in the year 2000, President Bill Clinton made GPS signals fully available for civilian use.
Thanks, Bill, because without GPS, we wouldn't know how to get anywhere because my dad has a terrible sense of direction.
She's not wrong.
Dad, earlier you said our phones figure out where we are by listening to satellites. But how exactly does that happen? It feels like magic, or at least super genius science.
You could say it's sweet technological magic. Each GPS satellite constantly broadcasts a signal that includes the satellite's position and the time the signal was transmitted. Your GPS receiver, like in your phone or car, listens to those signals. When it hears the signal, it notes the exact time those signals arrive.
So your phone is basically timing messages coming from space. By comparing how long the signal took to travel and knowing the speed of light, your phone figures out how far away that satellite is. But one satellite alone only says you're somewhere on a sphere around it. With 2 satellites, you narrow it down to a circle. With 3, you get 2 points. By the time you're using 4 satellites, you can pinpoint your exact location. Latitude, longitude, and altitude.
4 satellites to place you anywhere on Earth with 10-meter accuracy.
Modern GPS systems, like the ones used by the U.S. military, can get accuracy within inches using special signals and correction systems.
Maybe that's good enough to help me find the socks that somehow go missing every time I do the laundry.
GPS relies on super precise atomic clocks on board each satellite and signal correction systems on the ground. Without those, you'd be off by several miles in just one day.
Now that you know how it works, what can GPS help you do about everyday life? Well, maybe more than you think.
Let's start with the obvious one, driving directions. Whether you're using Google Maps or Waze, that turn-by-turn voice is powered by GPS. Missed a turn? Your GPS quickly recalculates so you don't end up lost.
But GPS isn't just for cars. It helps runners track their pace. Hikers mark trail points, and even ship captains cross oceans. Farmers use GPS to guide tractors with precision, planting crops row by row without missing a spot.
Animals use GPS too. Scientists tag animals like turtles, birds, and sharks with GPS trackers to monitor their movements. That helps us to understand migration patterns, habitat use, and how to protect them.
GPS helps in emergencies as well. Many phones automatically send your coordinates to emergency services when you call 911. That can be life-saving if you can't explain where you are.
Even drones use GPS to hover and deliver packages.
It really is amazing what GPS can do. Here's one of the coolest facts. GPS satellites control time on Earth. That's right, the thing you use to find your way also keeps your clock accurate.
Those satellites have atomic clocks so precise they lose a second every 30 million years. They send timestamps with every GPS signal. Ground stations sync to that time, and our devices recalibrate to match.
That's why we can set our watches by phone, or order stuff online at exactly 3 p.m. and trust that your order was tagged correctly.
Even the financial world relies on this. Stock markets in London, New York, and Tokyo use GPS timing to timestamp every transaction. It's serious business.
Can you even imagine what it would be like if we suddenly lost GPS? Aviation would slow as planes revert to ground-based navigation. Ships would rely on stars and landmarks again.
Even daily routines would change. You wouldn't be able to track your workout runs. And search parties for lost hikers would go old school with compasses and trail signs.
That's why many systems now rely on backup systems just in case, like radio navigation, land beacons, and even QR codes in cityscapes.
Here's another twist. Some animals, like migratory birds and sea turtles, navigate using stars and magnetic fields. Humans need to rely on satellites. Nature is so cool.
Scientists are even experimenting with sending GPS to other planets. They call it interplanetary GPS. We're basically turning the universe into a giant coordinate grid. So someday, future NASA explorers might say, turn left at crater 47b.
You buy a pair of socks, that's 2 socks. You buy a pair of Bombas socks, that's 4 socks. Because one purchased is one donated. Socks are the #1 most requested clothing item in homeless shelters. So when you buy a pair of super comfortable Bombas socks, you're also donating a pair. Bombas customers have powered over 150 million donations. So Bombas would like to thank you 150 million times. But we only have like 30 seconds. Go to bombas.com and use code AUDIO for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com and use code AUDIO at checkout.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Here comes Noah, who also goes by the initials GPS. Generally pretty stinky. Just kidding. Here, with 5 unbelievable facts you need to know about GPS is Noah. Take it away, Noah! Fact number 1. GPS signals are so weak that they have less power than a 40-watt light bulb, but they still travel through the atmosphere to your device. Fact number 2. GPS is free to use for anyone, anywhere in the world. Fact number 3. GPS is also used in earthquake monitoring and tracking the movement of tectonic plates. Fact number 4. Astronauts can use GPS in space, but only near Earth. Once you're heading towards Mars, you're on your own, buddy. Fact number 5. GPS is also being used in sports. For example, video-assisted review in soccer, AR in tennis, and goal line technology all use some form of GPS technology.
Wow, great facts, Noah. Even though GPS technology is relatively new, we use it in so many different ways today. Olivia, according to data from earlier this year, which GPS devices, aside from smartphones, do at least 25% of Americans own?
It turns out that 29% of Americans have a smartwatch, 28% have a vehicle tracker, and 27% have a fitness monitor. All of those devices use GPS. Other less common GPS devices that many people have include pet trackers and medical alert devices for seniors.
With amazing advances like GPS that were not around when I was a kid, I can only imagine what new advances might be around 40 years from now that we couldn't possibly dream up today. Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's podcast number 326 on GPS.
Great job, Olivia, and great job, Alanna and Albert. I was lost until you gave us a great episode topic suggestion to learn about. Before we wrap things up for this week, we have an amazing listener to thank.
We want to thank username KimB1341 for the 5-star review.
The review says, magnificent! It's another entry in our one-word review challenge. For those of you that don't know, we got a review a few months ago that was one word long, and that word was good. Then we put out a challenge to our listeners to think of a one-word review that was better than good. We got a second one-word review that was fantastic. This time around, the one word is magnificent. What do you think, Olivia? Is magnificent better than good and fantastic?
It absolutely is. I think we have a new number 1. Nicely done, Kimby.
Do you think you can come up with a one-word review better than magnificent? Let's see what you've got. Join us next week when we will get curious about composting for listeners in Georgia, Florida, and Illinois. As always, thank you so much for listening and getting curious with us.